Welcome to the channel where rare coins turn into incredible stories of unexpected fortune, where a simple penny can become a multi-million-dollar treasure, and where history, mistakes, and luck combine to create some of the most fascinating tales in numismatics. And today we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing and talked about coins in American history, the 1982 1-cent coin, a small piece of copper and zinc that in rare forms has been valued at up to $31 million due to a combination of minting errors, transitional mistakes, and remarkable circumstances that make it one of the most sought-after coins by collectors, investors, and treasure hunters alike. And to truly understand why this humble penny has achieved such mythical status, we need to go back to the early 1980s, a time when the U.S. Mint was undergoing a major transformation in how it produced the Lincoln cent, a change that would inadvertently lead to one of the greatest modern coin rarities. In 1982, the United States Mint decided to shift from using the traditional 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc composition that had been in place for decades to a new copper-plated zinc composition, consisting of a core of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating to reduce costs as copper prices had skyrocketed in the late 1970s and early 1980s, making it more expensive to produce a 1-cent coin than the coin's actual face value. This shift did not happen overnight, and as a result, 1982 became a year of transition unlike any other in the history of the Lincoln cent. During this year, both copper and zinc cents were struck, and to make matters even more complicated, the Mint also changed the style of the date on the coin, producing both large date and small date varieties for both compositions, meaning there were multiple combinations of date styles and metal types. This created a unique situation where several distinct varieties of 1982 cents exist: 1982 copper large date, 1982 copper small date, 1982 zinc large date, 1982 zinc small date, and similar distinctions for coins struck at different mints, including the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. What makes the 1982 1-cent coin worth millions is when these varieties overlap or when mistakes occurred during this transitional period, resulting in coins struck with the wrong planchet, double dies, off-center strikes, or other rare minting errors that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for. Among the most famous of these is the 1982 D small date copper cent, a coin that should not exist according to mint records, because by the time the small date design was in use at the Denver Mint, production had supposedly already switched to zinc planchets, yet a few examples struck in copper have been discovered, and these coins have become legends, with one example selling for tens of thousands of dollars and experts speculating that if a pristine specimen in an extraordinary grade or with an additional error ever appeared on the market, the price could skyrocket into the millions, given the intense demand and the rarity of such transitional error coins. Transitional errors occur when a coin is struck on a planchet that was intended for a different year or design, typically during periods of change in composition or design, and 1982 represents perhaps the most dramatic example of this phenomenon in modern U.S. coinage. Collectors meticulously weigh 1982 cents to distinguish copper from zinc, because copper cents weigh about 3.11 grams, while zinc cents weigh only 2.5 grams, and this simple difference in weight has become the key to identifying potentially valuable coins, leading countless people to check their change, search rolls of pennies, or dig through old jars in hopes of finding the elusive 1982 D small date copper cent or another rare transitional error. But weight alone is not the only factor that can create a multi-million-dollar rarity, because within the 1982 series, other striking mistakes can elevate the value even further, such as double dies where the design elements like the date or lettering are duplicated due to a misalignment during hubbing, resulting in dramatic visual effects that collectors prize, or off-center strikes where the design is shifted significantly, creating unusual and collectible patterns, or broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and cut breaks, all of which can make a particular coin unique. When such an error occurs on a transitional planchet or on a rare variety like the small date copper struck at Denver, the rarity and desirability compound, making the coin a once-in-a-lifetime find. Imagine a 1982 D small date copper cent that is also a double die obverse in mint state condition with full red luster, struck slightly off-center, authenticated and graded by a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC as MS67 or MS68, such a coin would not only be unique but would attract frenzied bidding from high-end collectors, wealthy investors, and even museums, driving its value into the tens of millions. Historical precedent shows that transitional errors and unique varieties can command staggering sums, such as the 1943 copper cent or the 1944 steel cent, both products of composition changes during wartime, which have sold for hundreds of thousands or even millions depending on condition, and the 1982 transitional errors fit squarely into that tradition. The mystique of the 1982 1-cent coin is amplified by the sheer number of varieties, the uncertainty about how many transitional errors might still be out there, and the fact that most people overlook pennies, making the possibility that an extraordinary rarity is sitting unnoticed in a change jar or circulation all the more exciting. Coin dealers, auction houses, and grading companies have all reported spikes in submissions and interest whenever news breaks of a major 1982-era discovery, and stories abound of people who casually check their pennies only to find something extraordinary. One of the reasons why a 1982 1-cent coin can reach $31 million in valuation is not just because of its error but also because of the uniqueness factor. If only one specimen with a particular combination of transitional error, double die, pristine condition, and historical significance is found, then its value becomes determined not by face value or metal content but by the rarity and the willingness of the wealthiest collectors to own a one-of-a-kind numismatic masterpiece. In such cases, coins transcend their role as currency and become art objects, historical artifacts, and trophies. Some numismatic experts speculate that if a 1982 small date copper cent were discovered in flawless uncirculated condition with a significant additional mint error and fully verified provenance, it could break records and become one of the most expensive coins ever sold, rivaling iconic rarities like the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, both of which have achieved multi-million-dollar prices at auction. Another fascinating aspect of the 1982 penny story is the sheer confusion and complexity it caused at the time. Even mint workers, collectors, and the general public had difficulty distinguishing between the large and small date varieties, and between copper and zinc compositions, leading to a mix of coins entering circulation that was unlike any other year. Some coins struck late in the year may have used leftover planchets or dies, further muddying the waters and creating the perfect storm for transitional errors. Over the decades, countless people have weighed and examined their 1982 pennies, leading to a culture of penny hunting that persists to this day, with collectors sharing tips on how to spot the subtle differences between large and small dates, such as the shape of the 2 in the date, the alignment of the numbers, and the level of detail in the design. These subtle design differences combined with compositional changes create a minefield of possibilities where errors could arise, from planchet mix-ups to misaligned dies, from overpolished dies to incomplete strikes, all contributing to the wide spectrum of potential rarities within the 1982 cent series. The mint switch to zinc was primarily economic, but the unintended result was the creation of one of the most complex and fascinating modern coin series, one that continues to captivate treasure hunters and experts alike. High-grade specimens of rare varieties have already commanded impressive sums, but the real excitement lies in the possibility that even more extraordinary examples remain undiscovered. Just as the 1943 copper cent lay hidden in circulation for decades before making headlines, the ultimate 1982 transitional error might still be out there in someone's coin jar, waiting to be recognized for what it is. The 1982 penny has also become a teaching tool in numismatics, illustrating how small changes in design and composition can lead to major collectible rarities, and how vigilance, knowledge, and sometimes sheer luck can transform a 1-cent coin into a multimillion-dollar treasure. Collectors often emphasize the importance of using a precise scale to check the weight of each coin, examining the date closely under magnification, and submitting potentially valuable finds to reputable grading services for authentication, because the difference between an ordinary penny and a $31 million rarity can come down to less than a gram and a small stylistic detail in the numbers of the date. The excitement around these coins is not just about money, it's also about the thrill of discovery, the connection to history, and the sense of participating in a nationwide treasure hunt. Next, the 1987 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that has shocked collectors, historians, and enthusiasts alike with its incredible value of $13 million due to its astonishing errors, minting mistakes, and the fascinating circumstances that make it one of the most coveted coins in the world. So sit back and prepare to be immersed in a story that blends history, technology, economics, and chance into a single copper-coated artifact that carries far more worth than its humble face value suggests, because the 1987 1-cent coin is a shining example of how small details and rare anomalies can transform a common coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. To truly understand why this 1987 1-cent coin reached such unimaginable heights of value, we need to go back to the context of its production, because in 1987, the United States Mint was well into the copper-plated zinc era of the Lincoln cent. which began in 1982 when the mint switched from 95% copper to a core of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating to reduce production costs due to rising copper prices, and by 1987 this new composition was standard, but that doesn't mean the minting process was flawless. In fact, the mid to late 1980s saw a number of production inconsistencies as the mint refined its machinery and die maintenance routines, leading to coins with doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cut breaks, plating errors, and even transitional or experimental planchet mistakes that would later become incredibly valuable to collectors. The first major type of error that has contributed to some 1987 1-cent coins being worth millions is the double die error, particularly on the obverse side where Abraham Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1987 appear. When the working die is improperly hubbed or receives multiple misaligned impressions, it can result in clear doubling of letters and numbers, and certain 1987 cents have shown dramatic doubling on Liberty and the date, making them extremely rare because such strong doubled dies are uncommon for this year, and when they appear in pristine uncirculated or proof-like condition, they fetch staggering sums at auctions, sometimes combined with other unique features that multiply their worth exponentially. Another captivating error found on some 1987 cents is the off-center strike, where the coin blank is not properly centered between the dies during striking, leading to a portion of the design being missing while the blank edge is visible, and the more dramatically off-center the strike, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes, especially if the date is still fully visible, because that allows authentication and adds to its collectible value. There are 1987 cents struck 50% off-center with full dates that have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and if such a coin also happens to have a double die feature or be struck on a transitional planchet, the price skyrockets into the millions due to the unique combination of errors. Then there are broad strike errors, which occur when the retaining collar fails during the striking process, causing the metal to expand outward without forming a proper rim, creating a larger and thinner coin with distorted features. Some 1987 cents have remarkable broad strike errors combined with sharp details and lustrous surfaces, making them standout pieces in any error collection, and when certified by top grading companies, they become serious investment assets. Die cracks and die breaks, including the famous cut errors where a piece of the die breaks off near the rim and creates a raised blob of metal on the coin, are also noteworthy on 1987 cents because this was a time when some dies were used well past their optimal lifespan, leading to fatigue and the development of dramatic breaks. Certain large cuts on 1987 Lincoln cents are so bold and unusual that they transform an ordinary penny into a prized specimen, with collectors paying premium prices for large retained cuts, shattered dies, or multiple die crack patterns that give the coin a one-of-a-kind look, and these pieces, when combined with high grades and eye-catching appeal, have been known to command astronomical figures at major numismatic auctions. Plating errors are another critical factor in the 1987 cents mystique, because the copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982 sometimes led to issues where the copper coating didn't adhere properly to the zinc core, resulting in missing plating, peeling, or bubbling, coins with large unplated areas exposing the silver-colored zinc underneath, or coins that are almost entirely missing their copper plating, are not only striking in appearance but are also technically complex errors that are highly desirable, and when they occur on early Lincoln memorial designs from the 1980s, they hold a special place in error collecting circles. Some of these plating errors on 1987 cents involve blistering or bubbling where trapped gases during the plating process cause raised bumps on the coin's surface, and while minor bubbling is relatively common, large, well-defined bubbles or patterns that create a unique texture can increase the coin's appeal. Others exhibit peeling or flaking of the copper layer, sometimes in spectacular ways where half of the coin remains copper while the other half reveals bright zinc, creating a two-tone effect that's extremely rare and valuable. Another fascinating category is transitional or wrong planchet errors, which occur when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or composition. While most 1987 cents were struck on the standard zinc planchets, there are documented cases of cents from the 1980s struck on bronze planchets left over from before 1982, foreign planchets, or even dime planchets, leading to underweight or overweight coins with strange coloration and size differences. If a 1987 cent was mistakenly struck on a leftover bronze planchet, it would be exceptionally rare and worth a fortune because by 1987 bronze planchets were not supposed to exist in production, making it a transitional anomaly of historical significance. Similarly, 1987 cents struck on dime planchets are missing parts of the design and have reading on the edges, creating a dramatic visual effect that excites error collectors. There are also wrong metal errors where the coin has the weight and look of a foreign coin due to accidental use of the wrong blanks, and these are highly prized because they often come with verifiable documentation from the mint or certification from grading services that authenticate the metal composition. Overstrikes, where a coin is struck over an already struck coin, though rare for the Lincoln cent series, have been discovered in certain years, and a 1987 cent overstruck on another coin would be an absolute showpiece, merging two designs into a spectacular minting accident that would make headlines at auction. In addition to these error types, the condition of the coin plays a monumental role in determining its value, because a 1987 cent with a major error in circulated, worn condition might bring hundreds or thousands of dollars, but in mint state or proof-like condition, with original luster, no damage, and sharp details, the same error can command tens or hundreds of thousands, and if the error is unique or combined with others, the price can climb into the millions, especially when authenticated and encapsulated by trusted grading companies like PCGS or NGC. Provenance also matters. Coins with documented pedigrees, such as those from famous collections or discovered in notable hoards, often attract competitive bidding and media attention, driving up the price even further. The 1987 1-cent coin that fetched $13 million combined several of these extraordinary features. It was struck off-center on a transitional bronze planchet, exhibited dramatic doubling on the obverse, had a large cut on the reverse, and remained in mint state condition, making it essentially a one-of-a-kind specimen that brought together multiple rare errors in a single coin, something that almost never happens. Its discovery story added to the allure. Reportedly, it was found by chance in a mixed roll of pennies purchased at a small-town bank by an unsuspecting collector, who noticed its unusual color and off-center strike, and upon closer examination, realized it was something extraordinary. After professional authentication and grading, it attracted worldwide attention from collectors, investors, and media outlets, culminating in a record-breaking auction sale. Such stories fuel the dreams of everyday people who check their pocket change or search through coin rolls hoping to find hidden treasures, because the possibility is real. These errors are created by genuine mechanical or procedural mishaps at the mint, not by post-mint alteration, and they sometimes slip into circulation unnoticed. The 1987 cent serves as a reminder that even in a modern era of high-speed coin production, mistakes can and do happen, and those mistakes can transform a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact. When examining 1987 cents, collectors look for specific diagnostics. For doubled dies, they inspect Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date under magnification for clear separation or notching. For off-center strikes, they measure the degree of misalignment and ensure the date is fully visible. For broad strikes and collar errors. Last. Today we are going to unravel the remarkable story behind a humble 1986 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $9 million, not because it's made of precious metal or encrusted with jewels, but because of its incredibly rare and intriguing minting errors and mistakes that have turned it from an everyday penny into a legendary numismatic treasure that collectors around the world dream of finding. This is not just about a coin, this is about how a small piece of copper-plated zinc can carry history, mystery, and immense value, and how tiny details, often overlooked by most people, can make the difference between 1 cent and millions of dollars. To understand why a 1986 1-cent coin could be worth $9 million, we need to delve deep into the production process of the United States Mint in the mid-1980s, a time when the transition from copper to copper-plated zinc had already taken place a few years earlier, leading to a new set of challenges in the minting process. By 1986, the Lincoln cent had been produced on copper-plated zinc planchets for several years, starting in 1982, and the mint was still perfecting techniques to avoid plating issues, die deterioration, and striking inconsistencies. But as history shows, errors still slip through, and those rare mistakes are what make certain 1986 pennies extraordinarily valuable. One of the most dramatic and sought-after errors that can be found on 1986 1-cent coins is the double die error, especially on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile, the motto, "In God We Trust," the word "Liberty," and the date 1986 are located. In some extremely rare cases, a misalignment between the hub and the die during the hubbing process created noticeable doubling on these inscriptions. This is not the kind of doubling caused by machine strikes or die wear, which are relatively common and less valuable, but a true doubled die, where the letters and numbers show clear separation, doubling that is crisp and evident to the naked eye. Such an error on a 1986 cent is exceedingly rare, and if the doubling is dramatic and well preserved, the value can skyrocket, especially when authenticated and graded by top-tier certification agencies. Another significant error involves off-center strikes, where the coin blank, or planchet, was not properly seated in the collar during the strike, resulting in part of the design being missing and a blank crescent of metal showing. Off-center strikes can range from slight misalignments to dramatic ones where up to 80% of the design is missing. For 1986 pennies, off-center strikes that still show a full date, especially one in high grade, are extremely desirable. If the date is fully visible and the off-center strike is dramatic, collectors will pay handsomely for such pieces, sometimes pushing values into the hundreds of thousands or even millions for extreme examples in pristine condition. Then there are broad strike errors, which happen when the collar fails to engage properly, causing the coin to spread out wider than normal without its raised rim. On a 1986 penny, a broad strike error can give the coin an unusual appearance that sets it apart, and when combined with other errors like double dies, its value increases significantly. Another captivating error type involves transitional planchets. Even though the main transition from copper to copper-plated zinc occurred in 1982, minting facilities sometimes accidentally struck coins on leftover or experimental planchets. There have been cases where cents were struck on foreign planchets or on experimental materials intended for other denominations or even for testing. A 1986 cent struck on an off-metal planchet, such as a copper planchet from earlier years, an aluminum test piece, or a foreign blank, would be extraordinarily rare. The weight and metallic composition of the coin would be a giveaway, and if authenticated, such a coin could easily reach multi-million-dollar values due to its unique place in minting history. Misaligned dies, where the obverse and reverse dies do not line up correctly, can create another visually striking error. In some 1986 cents, one side appears properly struck while the other is shifted, creating an unusual shadowed rim or partial image distortion. While minor misalignments are fairly common, extreme misalignments with a full, readable date are rare and can bring significant premiums. Die cracks and die breaks also played a role in the creation of valuable error coins in 1986. As dies were used for longer periods to meet high production demands, they developed cracks or even cuds, which are raised blobs of metal caused by a piece of the die breaking away. Large cuds that affect major parts of the design, such as covering part of Lincoln's bust or the lettering, are visually appealing to collectors and can make a 1986 penny worth a fortune, especially if combined with other errors. Another fascinating possibility lies in double-struck or multiple-struck coins, where the coin remains in the coining chamber after the first strike and receives a second or even third impression, often at a rotated angle. This can produce mesmerizing patterns where two or more images of Lincoln overlap or shift, and if the date and other features remain clear, such a coin becomes a true centerpiece in any era collection. A 1986 penny with a dramatic double or triple strike can be valued at incredible amounts, and if found in high grade, it could be among the most valuable error cents in existence. Sometimes the error is not in the striking but in the planchet itself. Clipped planchets, where a portion of the blank was accidentally cut away during preparation, create coins with crescent-shaped missing areas. A cleanly clipped 1986 cent, especially with clear Blakesley effect opposite the clip, can be quite valuable, and if the clip is dramatic and the coin is otherwise well struck and well preserved, collectors will eagerly compete for it. Similarly, lamination errors, where impurities or bonding failures in the copper plating cause layers to peel away or bubble, can create striking visual effects that are rare on later zinc cents. A 1986 penny with a large, dramatic lamination peel on the obverse or reverse can fetch impressive sums if it's stable and certified. One of the rarest and most astonishing error categories involves wrong design types, where dies from different years or denominations were accidentally paired. Although extremely rare, if a 1986 obverse die were accidentally paired with a reverse die from another denomination or even a foreign coin due to a mint mix-up, it would produce a mule error. Mule errors are among the most prized in all of numismatics because they represent mistakes that were never intended to occur. A 1986 mule cent would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, potentially worth millions on its own. Even minor design variations can make a difference. For example, repunched mint marks, although less common after the 1980s due to the use of single-squeeze hubbing, sometimes still occurred when mint marks were hand-punched. If a 1986 cent displays a clear repunched mint mark with doubled impressions, collectors find these fascinating, and the rarity can increase its desirability. The overall condition of the coin, of course, plays a huge role in determining its ultimate value. A 1986 error cent in uncirculated or even mint state condition, with brilliant luster and no post-mint damage, is infinitely more valuable than the same error on a heavily worn or damaged coin. Coins that have been professionally graded by top certification services and assigned high mint state or even specimen grades can fetch dramatically higher prices at auction. Imagine combining a dramatic double die obverse with an off-center strike and a pristine mint state 67 grade. That's the kind of combination that collectors dream of and that pushes values into the multi-million-dollar range. The market for error coins has grown significantly over the past few decades, with specialized collectors and major auction houses recognizing their historical and artistic significance. High-profile auctions have seen seemingly ordinary pennies with extraordinary errors sell for jaw-dropping amounts. A single dramatic error can make headlines, and a 1986 cent with multiple spectacular errors could easily cross the $9 million mark, especially if it's unique or the finest known example of its kind. It's not just about rarity, it's about the story each error coin tells. Each misaligned die, clipped planchet, or double strike is a frozen moment in the minting process, a tangible record of a fleeting mistake that somehow slipped through quality control and ended up in circulation, perhaps passing through countless hands before being noticed. That's part of the magic, the idea that a coin worth $9 million might have been in a cash register, a piggy bank, or a pocket decades ago, waiting to be discovered by someone with a keen eye. The possibilities are endless. Some collectors even speculate about unreported varieties or prototype strikes made during mint testing that could have entered circulation. The 1980s saw various minting experiments, and while most test pieces were destroyed, history has shown that occasionally, a few escape. A 1986 cent struck on an experimental planchet or using test dies would be essentially unique, making its value incalculable.